I am joined by my boyfriend, Dimitri.
Hello.
Alright. So I want you to imagine your best friend. They're awesome, they're hilarious, great personality, you do anything for them. Except, let them live in your apartments. The reason I stand before you today, leaders of Edward Rose and Sons, is to persuade you to add wheelchair-accessible housing or elevators or some other means of increasing mobility for the handicapped so that more people have the opportunity to live in all of your apartments. On your website, you claim that you have 130 apartments and townhomes in the Midwest altogether, and in Kalamazoo alone, you have 7. However, only 2 of those 7 actually claim to have handicap-accessible living. However, I've been to Concord Place, and I have seen your claimed accessibility. You don't have, curb ramps, so people can actually get into the apartments, and of those apartments that have the accessibility, there's only a few first-floor studio apartments. It's not there's not many options for the disabled, and even just those 2 available complexes. So between the statistics of Kalamazoo that show the vast demographics that you seem to be missing out on, and the easy, affordable routes that you can take to appeal to these demographics, I hope that by the end of this speech, you find that there is no reason for you not to apply these changes to your business. So, first off, let's look at some numbers that show the importance of this problem. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the population of Kalamazoo County in 2015 that had disabilities was 12.9%. This little doodad right there. So, of that is about 33,540 people. And for the sake of argument, we're just going to say that all require handicap-accessible housing, and they all want to live in your 2 apartments. So, those few first-floor studio apartments that have accessibility start at about $560. So, if you multiply that by all of the disabled people in Kalamazoo as of 2015, you are missing out on, whoosh, almost $19 million. That is a lot of money! And there have already been lawsuits filed against you for not having proper measures in handicap accessibility. So implementing these new measures for disabled persons can only help prevent legal trouble. And also, lawsuits in general are just bad for investors. So you're losing out on a lot of money here. So, now that we've seen how this lack of accessibility alienates you as a company, let's look at how this alienates the disabled and wheelchair-bound. So, only 2 of your complexes in Kalamazoo have handicap-accessible living spaces. These spaces are only on the ground floor, and many of which still lack curb ramps which prevent residents from getting into their apartment. When I called both Concord Place and Gull Prairie, the 2 complexes that you say have the accessibility, there were no vacancies. And so, sure, that's not entirely on you guys. Rooms fill up. That's just a thing. But if, there was more availability at all 7 of your complexes instead of just 2 of them, that could allow handicapped people to consider your apartments, and I cannot reiterate this enough, give you their money! Which leads me into the second part of the speech, what can and should be done. My proposed policy is that you increase the amount of available apartments for disabled people, whether that includes adding curb ramps or elevators to get to the higher floors. The costs of doing so aren't that bad. According to apartmentlist.com, here's the quote, expect to spend around $20,000 for a full remodel. However, as a property manager or landlord, such a remodel can be worthwhile if it helps you fill your apartments. And as the population ages, more renters will have accessibility needs. Having handicap-accessible apartments can be very lucrative. End quote. And smaller changes like support bars, ramps, wider doorways are much cheaper jobs than trying to put in new floors and moving around power outlets. Trust me, my my dad had me try to do that to our house. It was not fun. And so doing these smaller changes, like I mentioned, for even just a few more units than the first couple studio apartments can be a very worthwhile operation. And the aging population is also another thing to consider. In Michigan, in particular, people over the age of 60 account for almost a quarter of our population as of 2018. And this is an upward trend from where it was in the early 2000s, so this population is only going to get bigger. So preparing for this aging market isn't just a good thing that you should act on like in a couple weeks, a couple years. It's something that you should act on now because this population is already here and growing. So making these changes can only help you make more money in the long run. And think about it. You can cover both the young college student market and the aging over 60 population. That's like the only two markets that Kalamazoo has. That'd be awesome. You'd cover all the markets. That's a lot of money that you can be making. And also, you know, not alienating people just sort of sounds like the right thing to do. So, in conclusion, I understand. You want to make money. I want you to make money too. And so, making these changes can only help that. Because you won't be alienating populations that are disabled, and you won't be alienating the aging population. It's just a good idea. So hopefully, hearing these points about how this alienates not just potential renters, but also you as a company in general, you can help understand that these changes need to be made. And while it may cost a decent amount of money in the short term, it can only help you make more money in the long term. Thank you. So now we move on to questions.
What percentage of units are you suggesting we adjust?
My proposal is mainly that you cover just all of the ground floor apartments, but I don't know how many that is in general, because I haven't counted all of the apartments at all of your complexes, because that's a lot. Yeah.
How long will it take us to implement this?
My suggested time is 5 years, but I'm not a business major, so I don't know, depending on how much money you want to invest in doing this job. It all depends on pretty much how much money you want to invest and how long it takes your people to do it. But yeah.
All right.